Are you looking for a rental property checklist PDF or a rental property checklist template? I'm Lisa Delzompo, Associate Broker, and I manage some properties in Southern California with our brokerage. We do have access to give you a PDF like that. But let's talk about some things to think about as you fill out that form. Number one, the form is used both for a move-in and a move-out. You first move the tenant in, and then later the same form is used to move them out and document the condition of the property. When the tenant is moving in, you should do a thorough walkthrough, determining what the condition of the property is at the time the tenant moves in. And that's important because the tenant is responsible to turn the property back over to you in essentially the same condition as it was given to them, except for normal wear and tear. Normal wear and tear is walking on a carpet and it starts to wear out. Not normal wear and tear would be excessive staining of carpets. There's a whole area to figure out what's normal wear and tear and what's not. You as a landlord have an obligation not to keep the security deposit at the end of the rental period for anything except what the tenant causes other than normal wear and tear. And you have to do your best in good faith under the law. Number two, the mindset. Just put down the facts. If there's a cracked tile in a bathroom, at that bathroom portion, write down that there's a cracked tile. Number three, the opportunity for a tenant to document the condition. The leases are typically drawn up to give the tenant 3, 5, 7, 14 days, whatever the landlord chooses, as the amount of time for the tenant to move in and see things that they're not going to see right as they are arriving and getting keys because there's so much going on. It actually turns out that giving the tenant longer sometimes tends to make the tenant not go ahead and finish that list, which is not a great thing. But as a landlord at the same time, you want to be understanding and give them as much time as they need. We find that no more than about 14 days really is about all they need when they're going to convert on providing that condition list to you. Number four, how to look at each room. As you walk through a room, you have to switch over from your mindset of, I'm looking at this room generally and it looks pretty good, to the checklist says baseboards. So now I'm looking at the baseboards and looking for any imperfections in them. The checklist says windows. So I look at the window. Is there a slight crack? Is it loose? Does it jiggle? One by one, taking a look at all of those items. It's actually a developed talent to go ahead and go through these rooms and look one by one at things. It originally was not a strength of mine. Over time, as you do it more and more, it becomes a process and it's easier to do. Number five, documenting keys and remotes. There is a space on the move-in form that says keys and remotes, but it's a small area that often gets overlooked. So we actually have a separate form that we fill out that documents keys and remotes and also reiterates a handful of the important clauses from the lease that are often disputed by the tenant at move-out. For example, getting a professional cleaning, getting the carpets cleaned professionally. We reiterate about 7 or 10 additional items that are already in the lease that we want to be able to tell the tenant, look, we told you in the lease and we also told you additionally here. There's really no excuse for you to try to argue that this doesn't apply to you. Number 6, the additional clauses in the lease that can nickel and dime the homeowner. There's a handful of things that tenants typically just run out of time and energy to do as they move out. For example, putting in working light bulbs, getting a real professional clean on the bathrooms, those sorts of things. And so we do have that additional addendum where we have the ones that are the most overlooked. To do our best to avoid, like I said, the homeowner getting nickeled and dimed over the typical list of things that can cost anywhere from $50 to $100 in supplies, but to pay a handyman to come in and do it, all of a sudden it's $200 or $300 because you have to pay for the handyman's time. Number 7, a pre-move-out inspection. When that tenant's going to move out, we find that just showing up at the final inspection doesn't give the tenant as much of a heads up or incentive to go ahead and fix the handful of things that they will be responsible for if they don't fix, and that'll cause a delay when the owner has to get a handyman in to fix them, even if the owner can then charge the tenant's security deposit. Time is money. So if that delays the re-rent by about a week, that's a week of rent that wasn't collected, which is a fourth of the typical rent that's going to be charged to the next tenant. So a week's delay on a $2,000 rent would cost the owner $500 just in delay. So by doing a pre-move out inspection and giving that tenant a heads up that, hey, here's the list of 5 things you need to fix if you want your whole security deposit back, it helps speed the whole process up and saves homeowners in that way. Number 8, the move-out inspection. That final walkthrough where the owner or the property manager does a final walkthrough and looks at each portion of each room and makes sure what's working, figures out what's broken, figures out what's normal wear and tear, and then comply with the rules about the timing to give back the tenant's security deposit, and only remove from the security deposit the things that are allowed to be removed, the damages that are not normal wear and tear. And we'll talk about what portions can cover rent in another video. But when you're doing that walkthrough, and especially if the tenant is there with you, it can be pressure on you to overlook and miss a few things because they're tired, they want to leave, they just want to hand over keys. But you need to really steel yourself and do a very good inspection to protect yourself so that you're not coming out of pocket any more than you have to. This is a business venture and you're being fair, but you're also following the law. For a sample rental walkthrough checklist PDF, also known as a rental property inspection checklist, feel free to send me an email or text me. I'm happy to share that with you and answer any questions that you have.